Good morning, Malaysia. In the second hour of Tracks Momentum, 11:15, and it is face-to-face. Apologies, with me, Anil, on the mic. And today we have a rather special topic, seeing that in benefit of hindsight, we've got the festivities coming up because, every year, thousands of Malaysians actually make use of the opportunity that's afforded to them by form of the holidays. To head back to their hometowns to celebrate with their families. And they're going to use the highways. The highways connect, urban areas to rural areas and vice versa, and people make use of this opportunity. Hence, it's very important for us to truly understand what is it like for us to be safe on the highways for the benefit of us and also everyone else who's using the roads. And to help us with that, we have a special guest in the studio. He's the Executive Director of Safe Kids Malaysia at the Community Health Department of University Putra, Malaysia, and his name is Professor Dr. Kulanthayan Mani. Good morning, Professor.
Yeah, morning. How are you, Anil?
I'm doing great. Welcome to Face to Face.
Good,
it's a pleasure to have you, and I'm told that every year during our festivities, you are a must-have in the block here at Wisma Radio. And you just finished an interview in National FM. So thank you very much for accepting our offer. So just to start things off, we all often hear about road accidents and also a road crash. I think the general consensus just classifies that as a blanket statement. An accident is a crash is an accident. But in your perspective, your expert thoughts, what's the difference between an accident and a crash, Professor?
Okay, good. I think that's a very good question over there.
Sure.
Okay, previously we used to use the term road accidents, but say about 2 decades back, WHO, the World Health Organization, has changed it and has reclassified to road crash. The reason is this is a preventable event. If it's accident, it is as though like you can't prevent it. For example, if you go and hit someone, you can always say that I accidentally hit you, and you expect them to forgive you, and then you feel that is something that it is not available. It's not avoidable.
Okay.
So on that ground, the term was changed to crash because it means this incident can be prevented. Yeah. So that's why I would kindly request everyone to use the term road crash instead of road accident, because we can prevent this incident together.
Wow. So evitable and inevitable. That's like the dichotomy. Okay. And what does the current statistics in Malaysia say about road safety for road users? What does the data tell us now, Professor?
So all the data are collected by the Royal Malaysian Police, PDRM.
Okay.
So if you look at last year's data, 2023, it shows we had reported crashes, 598,635.
Okay.
Again, I would like to just caution everyone, these are all reported cases. There could also be some crashes which has gone unreported. Right. So if you add in those unreported, the whole burden will be much, much more higher. It can even be more than 1 million. So that is the burden in front of us. And these numbers, if you see, it means every 53 seconds, we have one reported road crash happening in Malaysia. That's the huge burden in front of us. And the effect of this, if you see, is we lost 6,433 lives only last year.
Wow.
Right. It means every 80 minutes, one life is lost due to a road crash in Malaysia. So having said this, so the burden is high, this health burden is high. We cannot pass this whole burden only to the government to shoulder it and then to address it. Now, all those countries who have performed well in terms of road safety, who are able to manage well in terms of road safety, where in those countries, the responsibility is shared by everyone. Okay, that means everyone has a role to play to address this traffic pandemic. I would put it that way. Right.
And Professor, what is the main contributing factor to road crashes, in your opinion? I mean, based on statistics or whatever the data tells us.
Yeah. The most pertinent issue cut across any country is the issue of speed.
Speed kills.
Yeah, speed kills. The moment you can reduce speed, that means you have a chance to manage your vehicle well, you can control your vehicle well, therefore you can prevent crash from happening. Or even in the event if still a crash happen, then the injury severity is much more lower. So if you ask me, among all the interventions, then I would say the most promising intervention is speed reduction. So why speed? That's the issue now here. Say, for example, if I have someone next to me,
okay,
if I just take my hand and I just touch on his shoulder, there won't be any injury to him. But if the same person, I remain the same, he remains the same, and my hand remains the same, and I just swing my hand on his shoulder, there could be a possibility of injury happening. So the whole idea why that injury happened is because of that swing, and that swing is the speed. So I can always replace my hand with, say, with an umbrella, with a stick, or even with a knife, anything. Again, any of this product, if I just put it slowly, gently on him, on his shoulder, no injury. Again, if I swing it, he will get injury. So very clear, injury happens because of the speed. Why? Because the speed carries energy. So if you want to prevent injury, cut the speed.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a very clear cut the speed. And research has also clearly shown 1 kilometer reduction in speed, you will get return about 3 to 4% reduction in crashes. Yeah. Wow. So with the recent government announcement about 2 days back, I believe, was by Ministry of Works, where they bring down the speed limit from 90 to 80 kilometer per hour. That means 10 kilometer per hour speed limit was brought down.
Yeah.
So just now, I'm just trying now to compare. You do 1 kilometer reduction, you get 4% reduction in crash.
Yes.
So if 10 kilometers, that's the huge amount you're going to get.
Okay.
So that's what the government has announced. But we, on our end, can even further reduce that speed if we want to see much more higher return.
Of course, yes. Now, Professor, I'm very, very encouraged by what you just said to ask you some other questions. Touching on, the contributing factors to road crashes. Now, you touched on speed, of course, that is imperative. That's one of the major causes. Now, what about things like road users shifting lanes without using their indicators? That as well we have seen cases that led to crashes. What about people who are using their mobile phones? These are things that we just can't avoid because we have a lot of distractions when we drive. Your thoughts on that, Professor?
Yeah, there are many issues which contribute towards crashes. Of course, speeding is the main one. And the other two, then of course the other reasons is what you have highlighted, especially changing lanes. Let me just touch on changing lanes. When you change lanes without giving any indicator, you're going to create surprises to everyone else who are sharing the same roadway at the same time.
You know what the argument is out on the streets right now is when I speak to people, say, why don't you use your indicator when you're shifting lanes? Because when I use my indicator, the guy who's on the other lane will never let me pass through. Sorry, continue, Prof. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. For this travel, this riot travel, if everyone have a common aim that we should reach our destination safely. instead of reaching early. Just change that particular setting. We want to reach home safely, not reach home earlier. Okay. Because when we are worried is when you said earlier you're going to reach, maybe that early will not happen at home. It may happen along the way, and your journey may end somewhere in between. So that's why cut the speed.
Okay.
All right. Then the main thing is when you change lane without giving indicator, you're going to create surprises. When you create surprises, the people behind you will be unprepared because they don't know what you're going to do.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's when you start entering into their lane, into their pathway, then sometimes to avoid a crash, it's a bit difficult. So that's one issue. The second point you were mentioning was on
usage of mobile phones.
Mobile phone. Okay. The whole roadway system, both roadway system and your vehicle system requires your full attention.
Yeah.
There cannot be any drop in your attention. Because the system itself needs such a level.
100% focus, no deviation whatsoever.
So whatever that can deviate your attention, that is now going to be a risk factor. So of course, mobile phone is one. Okay, not only handheld mobile phone, even conversation. Okay, even conversation. You may have Bluetooth or what, but if your conversation is very deep, which requires you to think of the answer to reply for the conversation, then it means there is a drop of your attention on the roadway.
Right.
So keep that in mind.
Okay.
So, or even say if it's not phone conversation, even a conversation within the passengers inside the vehicle, let it be in a very light mode. Okay, not to a level where you require the driver to think of an answer.
Wow.
Okay, because if you start doing that, then of course there must be a drop in terms of the attention on the roadway. So that's what my kind request to all those passengers together who are traveling in the car. Don't forget, your safety is now in the hands of the driver.
Driver.
Yeah. So to all drivers, please.
Yeah.
You have huge responsibility. One is to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Second, don't forget all the passengers are now dependent on you. Number two. And number three is all those other vehicles who are sharing the same roadway at the same time also depend on you. So on that ground, the speed that you choose cannot be your choice because others are also affected. Can keep that in mind. Others will also be affected by your choice of speed, high speed. So on that ground, you have to, for sure, you have to comply with whatever posted speed limit. And my kind request, can you go one step further by even going a bit more lower than what is required?
Right, okay. Thanks for breaking things down, Professor, because, we always think you're sitting in the car, we're having a casual conversation. Sometimes we think conversations are for the benefit of the driver, to keep the driver alert and awake, but you just, gave us a different perspective and said, conversations sometimes, especially when it involves him thinking, it may reduce his attention, focus on the road. Yeah?
You're right.
And now let's talk about the roles that employers can play. Now we see more and more employees, using the roads, post-pandemic, the remote work now has become thing of the past right now. People have started to go back to work using the highways. How do you think employers can play a role to reduce road crashes?
Yeah, if we see the World Health Organization in their recent report on the global plan, decade of action for this decade, they have clearly highlighted that one group which has a significant role to play is the employer. The reason is, if employer can take care of their employees only, okay, say employer A, he has 10 workers. Okay, right. If he can remind that 10 workers, okay, to be safe on the road, to comply with all traffic regulation, to have zero crash during, say, Raya Festival,
okay,
zero traffic summons. Okay, so for an employee, this message is very much close to him because employer knows him, they know each other. And if he is involved in a crash, the employer will know, and it will affect his rice bone.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying that the employer has a significant effect and role towards the employees, and it's a win-win situation because if there is no crash, that means there is no absenteeism from work.
Right.
And there is no effect on the production line. And there is less or no compensation has to be paid for whatever medical expenses or anything. So the company gains if they can raise the agenda of safety into the business model and then driving it through their safety and health officers which are available in that institution. For employees, the workers, of course, if you're not involved in a crash, your quality of life remains.
Yeah.
Okay. And you will be seen well among the employers. And hopefully in one day later, if employers can also have reward system for all the employees for being safe on the road.
Yeah.
Okay. So my request here is for every employer, if you can, we can start with just with this festive season, 2 weeks period, which is feasible to be done. Let's go with a vision zero crash.
Okay.
And vision zero traffic summons, which is possible. And if you can achieve that, then why not you scale it up towards the end of the year? So if everyone do it by their own clusters, then collectively, the whole nation, we can see some impact over there. That's what my thoughts.
Right. I'm just sitting over here and thinking, this is something that can be so beneficial not only for employers, even in schools as well. You can, remind children to, because when they walking to school or using their bicycles coming over to school, they can get involved in crashes as well, and it's important that they stay safe at the same time. But just to touch on this employer initiative, incorporating this into their business model, what's the adaptation like right now? How actively do you see employers out there in the industry incorporating this?
There are some industries, which has raised the agenda of safety very high into their business model, which they see if they emphasize on safety, it will give benefit to their business. For those people, they have really run it. So we are trying to frame it and we're trying to scale up those good examples so everyone in that field can benefit. Please say it in such a way that safety will give benefit to your industry, will give benefit to your workers as well. Okay? And there will be a spillover of your contribution to the nation as well.
Right.
So if every pockets of this employees are taken care, it will be great. And to support this, if the unions can play a role as well.
Right.
Because unions are being set up mainly to look at the welfare of the workers. But don't forget, safety is also part of the welfare. Right. So when safety is part of the welfare, would be good if the unions can also champion
Yeah.
the agenda of the safety, so that to make sure that all their members are safe at all times, not only at the workplace, but as well as commuting to and back from workplace as well, and during this festive period, whatever it is. As long as the idea is all the workers, all their members are able to resume back to work as normal.
That's the end game. That's the end result that we desire. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. Today on Face to Face, I'm speaking to Professor Dr. Kulanthayan Mani. He's the Executive Director at Safe Kids Malaysia at the Community Health Department of University Putra, Malaysia. And today we're speaking about safe travels during the festive season. Face to Face, we'll jump in for a quick break. When we come back, we shall resume with our discussion. Don't go anywhere. morning and welcome back to Face on Tracks Momentum with me, Anil, on the mic. Today, our special guest in the studio is Professor Dr. Kulanthayan. He's the Executive Director for Safe Kids Malaysia at the Community Health Department of University Putra, Malaysia. And today, Professor Kulanthayan is speaking to us about safe travelling during the festive season. Prof, welcome back to Face. Now, Prof, tell us about the link that is between enforcement and also road behaviour.
Okay, good.
Like a cat and mouse game, right?
So the whole idea of enforcement, if you see, it is based on safety. Okay, it's based on safety.
Yeah. Okay.
So the idea is to change from unsafe behavior to safe behavior.
Okay.
That's the whole key idea. That's why when you see a roadblock, okay, automatically a person who is not wearing a seatbelt will wear a seatbelt. That means an enforcement activity can change your behavior from unsafe to safe behavior immediately. That's the power of enforcement. But the lacking part is it is not sustainable, because the moment you clear the roadblock, there could be possibility, not everyone, some people may drop back to the earlier
Back to square one.
Yeah. Similarly, if you were speeding, when you see a roadblock, you will bring down your speed and comply. But after that, you may again go back. So the power of enforcement is it can change behavior immediately from unsafe to safe. But we need to make it sustainable. So that's why we need both to be combined. The education part is, it's very slow in terms of the return. When education or any awareness is a bit slow. Okay, it takes time. But the moment we are able to change you, it's sustainable.
Okay.
So I give you an example.
Sure.
So, for example, say you have a small child at home. In the beginning, you may need to remind that kid that the kid has to brush its teeth every morning. Okay. But after some time, you keep on reminding, and the kids keep on doing it. Okay. After that, it becomes a practice already.
Yeah.
Then you don't have to remind anymore. So, and then that practice, if they keep on repeating the same practice, it becomes culture. Once it becomes culture, you can always disengage with that kid and start focusing on another kid. Similarly, that's how it's happened here. From unsafe practice, we need some measures, whether it's enforcement, education, whatever it is, to make sure that they do safe practice, and we have to increase that frequency of the safe practice to a long period. Once they have done it for a long period, it becomes sustainable, it becomes culture. Similarly, like when you wear a watch, beginning you may feel odd or whatever it is, but after later one time, if you don't wear the watch, you will feel odd.
Yeah.
Similarly, beginning, say if you're sitting in the rear seat, you feel odd maybe to wear a seatbelt. Okay. But say after some time, not wearing one will make you feel odd. So that is the period we're going to invest now. Now to repeat all the safe practice for a longer period. After that, it becomes a culture. Okay. So on that ground, since you have raised that issue,
Yeah.
the seatbelt is one of the crucial issue here.
Yeah.
To prevent crash is speed reduction. But to prevent
Injuries.
we need safety products.
Yeah.
And for this Raya travel, most of the travels will happen with families, and most likely will be using a vehicle. Okay. For those using vehicle, the most prominent safety product which is built inside the car, which you have already paid for while you're buying the car, is the seatbelt. Okay. And seatbelts can prevent injuries by 50%, fatal injuries by 50%. So the drivers are using it, no issue. The front passengers are using it. The biggest challenge we have is the rear passengers. There's a huge drop there. Okay. So in a crash, the rear passengers, you are also at risk. If I am unrestrained, so in a crash, I'll be moving and I'll be hitting with the other occupants. I'll be hitting the driver. I'll be hitting the front passenger as well.
Right.
And the force is whatever the speed of the vehicle times with my body weight. So if my body weight, say, is 70 kilo and I'm driving at 80 kilometer per hour, that means the force that I'm going to push to everyone inside the vehicle is 5,600. So that can create injuries to them. So even though a driver is belted, just because the passengers behind is unbelted, now he will also have some injuries. So that's why it's for this travel onwards, my kind request that every adult passengers, no matter where you are seated, you must be belted. And for the drivers, please make sure please check all your occupants inside the car.
Yeah.
Are they belted? If they are belted, then only start your journey. Until then, don't start your journey. So that's my kind request.
Okay. Still touching on passengers in the car, I just thought of another question that I want to ask you since, you are in Safe Kids Malaysia. Baby seats. Professor, I think many of us are getting it wrong. We're not fastening it in the car the right way, I guess. Some people follow it, but some people don't. Sometimes it's a matter of convenience. Tell us, what is the right way for us to store the baby seat or latch it onto the seat? The right way.
Okay, good. The proper way to install a child seat, you have to follow 2 manuals.
Okay.
One is the car manual. Don't forget, when you buy the car, there was a car manual.
Yeah.
Please look for the car manual.
A very thick one.
Right. And every car manual, you will have one section which is written on child seat. So that car manual will tell you in that particular car in which seat you can install a child seat. So only the car manual will tell us correctly. In that car, say car A, which location can be installed, which location cannot be installed. Very clearly mentioned. That's one manual.
Okay.
Second manual is when you buy the child seat, they will have their own manual as well. So that child seat manual will tell you how to install the newly bought child seat in the place which has already been identified in the car by using the car manual. So that's why these 2 manual has to be read together. Yeah.
So you're putting 2 pieces together. Basically.
Yes, you're right. And keep in mind, a child seat can prevent injuries by almost 70% for infants.
Wow.
Okay? You don't have any other products which is giving you huge return in terms of protection. So that's one. But there are 2 elements here you have to give consideration in order for you to get the full 70% benefit.
Okay.
Which is the first, you must get a standard child seat.
So these are you talking about the features that the child seat should have? Yes.
A standard child seat here means a child seat which has gone through a crash test, which has been tested and which can give you protection during a crash. That's why a standard child seat is important. Say if I'm a buyer, and I go to the shop, how do I know whether this is a standard or non-standard? So I have to look for an orange label with the word UNR 44 or R129. R44 or R129. Then I know this is a standard one.
R44 and R129. Okay.
So first is intention to get one. Second, getting a standard one. The third is the proper installation. Then only you are going to get a full benefit of that child seat. And the last one, the fourth one is, if I have a child seat, everything properly installed behind everything, but if the adult passenger who is sitting next to the child is unbelted, again in a crash, this unbelted adult is going to move around and cause injury to the child. So that's why we say in a car, everyone has to be restrained. If it's an adult, it's seat belt. If it's a child seat.
Right. Thank you very much. Really beneficial for our listeners there. We're going to jump in for a very short break, Professor. When we come back, we'll wrap up our discussion today on Face to Face.
Sure.
Welcome back to Face on Tracks Momentum with me, Anil, on the mic. Today I'm speaking to Professor Dr. Kulanthayan, the Executive Director of Safe Kids Malaysia at the Community Health Department of University Putra, Malaysia. And a professor today is talking to us about safe travelling during the festive season. Professor, welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, Professor, I'm going to squeeze in 2 questions at one, if you can just, because we're running short of time, because this conversation has been really beneficial. Now, there are many different types of roads. Each roads come with their own sets of risks. And sometimes when we talk about risks, we're talking about crashes, accidents, injuries. So talk to us briefly about the various risks that different road types actually pose to road users, and also what can be done to address these things?
Okay, if you look at in terms of type of collisions, we have frontal collisions, side collision, and rear collision. Among these three collisions, the frontal collision is the most risky ones.
Head to head.
Head to head. So whichever roadway system which allows that kind of collisions to happen, all those roadway will have slightly higher risk comparatively to other roads. So now we have highway, federal roads, state roads, and municipal roads. And during this festive season, you'll be passing by sometimes even all the 4 different types of roadways.
Yeah.
Okay. So in a highway, the risk is much more lower. The reason is because you have the physical barrier. Physical median in between to physically cut the movement between the two flows. That means there is no chance for me to go to the opposite lane.
Okay.
So when I don't go to the opposite lane, I can avoid the frontal collision.
Okay.
So that's why highway is a bit least risk. And the most risk is now is between the state roads and municipal roads. Because you don't have a physical barrier. So therefore my vehicle, in order to overtake the frontal vehicle, I will go to the opposite lane and overtake. That's when there is a possibility for collisions to happen, the frontal collision.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. When you're moving towards state roads and municipal roads, when there is an opportunity for you to interact with the opposite lanes, there is a risk. That's one.
Okay.
Second, when you are going towards the municipal road, there could be traffic lights.
Yeah.
Okay. Traffic light is another location where frontal collisions can happen. Okay. If everyone comply with this traffic lights,
Yeah.
then you can cut that particular incidents happen, that particular risk. But then when there are some people who violate traffic rules, okay, that means now there will be 2 different directions people are moving. So every crash at that traffic light location, junction, will be a frontal collision.
Okay.
Okay. And keep in mind, any collision, frontal collision, even at lower speed, can end up as fatal collision. So this is the second risk. Okay. So since while you're talking on that, very quick one is,
Yeah.
at traffic lights, my kind request
Yes.
for every motorist, can you leave the frontal space for motorists, for motorcyclists.
Okay.
Let the motorcyclists be at the frontal part so that when the light changes green, let them move first.
So you prioritize the
Prioritize the motorcyclists move first, because motorcyclists, the moment when they interact with other vehicles, they are at risk.
Yeah.
So at least for certain distance, they are safe.
Okay.
Right. So on that ground, please give space for motorcyclists to move first in order for them to be safe and also for you all to be safe as well. Right.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for that. Now, Pros, very quickly, I want you to give us top 3 things that anyone should do the moment they get involved in a road crash. Just to remind everyone, just to recap, refresh their memory. They're going to head out on the highways to visit their families for Hari Raya. Top 3 things, or if you can add in a few more. What to do when you get involved in a road crash, very quickly.
Yeah, when you get involved in a crash, of course, the first thing is mainly safety.
Okay.
Safety of yourself, your whole family there, and as well as safety of the others as well. These 2 things. So take care of that part first. Okay. The rest, leave it first. Can
Safety.
The more safety. And keep in mind is you are more safer when you're inside the vehicle. The moment you exit of the vehicle, you're being exposed to other moving vehicles.
Right.
Okay, so that's why you're more safer inside. The moment you come out, there is an extra risk. So each time when you open your door to come out, be extra caution.
Okay.
Because there can be moving vehicles which are coming very close to you, which you may have missed it because of blind spot in the beginning. Okay, and suddenly it can happen.
Okay.
Right. So take care of that, and do kindly seek assistance, seek help. Okay, from the authorities for help, and I believe that their help will come in. But the whole idea is we want to prevent a crash from happening. So quick one: reduce your speed to prevent a crash, and then use seat belts to prevent injuries.
Right, right. Professor Dr. Kulanthayan, thank you so much for coming over here and sharing your expert opinion and your thoughts. I'm sure our listeners would have benefited a great deal from all the intricacies that you talked to us about road safety, about speed, reduction of speed, the amount of fatalities that it can reduce just by reducing a very small margin. Really insightful conversation. Your final messages for our listeners before we let you go for the day.
Okay, good. Just before you travel, make sure you have enough sleep, enough rest, in order to make sure that you can concentrate on the road much better off. Okay? But believe me, this trip will be longer than normal trips. And you have to be mentally prepared for that. Okay? And the key point here is all of us have to arrive safely and not aiming to arrive early. Okay? Reduce your speed, not only for your safety, for everyone else's safety. And my hashtag is always reduce speed, use seatbelt.
Reduce speed
and
use your
seat
seatbelt. Wow. Okay. Reduce speed, lose seatbelt. I think that is something that we can also start incorporating into our ethos as well when we use the roads. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Kulanthayan. Today on Face to Face Activate, I spoke to the Executive Director of Safe Kids Malaysia for the Community Health Department and University Putra Malaysia, and we spoke about safe travelling during the festive season. If you missed out on this conversation, worry not, you can always head straight back onto our official Facebook page and also our official YouTube channel and catch the replay there live. Time on the clock right now is 49 minutes past 12 o'clock, which means in about 11 minutes we will be crossing over to the RTM Radio News Centre for the 12 o'clock news bulletin, and then right after that, Anil on the mic will be back with you for the third hour of Tracks Momentum. And since we're talking about using the highways, I thought it's the best song to play. Balik Kampung. TRAXXfm.